Welcome to this Airwalk Reply podcast, The Big Questions in Tech, hosted by Joe de Freitas. Joining him are subject matter experts Claire Stockdale, Jemma Humphries and Alice Keal. Together they tackle the big questions in business analysis.
Hello and welcome back to the latest episode of The Big Questions in Tech with Airwalk Reply. The eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that we've got a new host. My name's Joe de Freitas. I'm a senior consultant here at Airwalk Reply. I've spent the past 10 or so years working on business strategy and tech innovation. My background's in media, digital platform sectors, before joining Airwalk in the past year or so. It's not about me today, so I'm joined by three guests and we're going to be discussing business analysis and the changing role of the BA. I've got Claire, Jemma and Alice.
Hey.
Could you all just take a bit of time to introduce yourselves, please?
I'm Claire Stockdale. I'm a senior consultant at Airwalk Reply and I specialise in business analysis. I've come from a background of financial services transformation and more recently I've worked in the public sector.
Hi, Jemma Humphries. I've got over 30 years of IT experience. I've spent most of my career working as a business analyst at various levels. And more recently, last few years, I've headed up technical operations and delivery functions.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Alice. I'm a senior consultant at Cortex Reply. So I specialise in AI and FinOps. Past few years, I've been doing more BA roles where I'm working both public and financial sectors, helping them to identify strategic solutions for digital settings.
Excellent. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. So let's get into it. I want to start off really with probably a bit of a basic question. The role of the BA can mean many things to many different people. So I think that's a really good place to start. So to you, what is a business analyst and what is their role today?
So I think it's that natural curiosity. They understand the business strategy and at whatever level, even the entry level, where they can work at a strategic level, but they can break that down. They understand where value is derived from, or how value is determined by that particular company. They understand the regulatory environment. They also understand the cost base, and ultimately they want to improve the ways of working, improve processes internally and externally. But I think they're also key with agile software engineering teams in driving those deliveries along, ensuring you deliver value, you prioritise that value, and that's released as early as possible.
I think I see the business analyst in all of those capacities that you've just mentioned as the key translator as well between tech, the business and strategy. That person who brings together the key objectives of the project and works with the project delivery team and the business to deliver those good outcomes.
Yeah, I think I agree with both of you. I think it is just that whole idea of they're painting that bigger picture. They're the ones who they've got the knowledge, they understand how, the operating models, the policies, the external, internal factors of it all. And they just, as you said, they translate the business needs into the requirements of how to do things.
So a lot of technical requirements and understanding there, but also, I guess, having to balance the people skills. What does a good BA do in that situation? How do they get that right?
I think communication is probably the key part. And I think that's going to be a skill that's going to continue as, we're going to talk about a lot of technologies coming forward and all these new tools. But at the heart of it, it's that communication. It's being able to understand what it is you're looking at, being able to summarise and make things comprehensible to all audiences.
To Alice's point, that communication, you need to be an excellent communicator, both verbally and from a written point of view.
Yeah.
The ability to summarise reams and reams of data into a one-page presentation for a senior exec to understand is a key skill in the business analysis toolbook.
Why is it so critical today?
I think the landscape is getting more complex. They need to understand the technical capability of the current systems in place. The technical evolution is so fast, it's hard for everyone to keep up. I suppose there's three things, isn't there? There's changes in your industry, or whatever that is. There's a constant push to be more productive from a software engineering perspective or deliver more. And then you've got the pressures of security, the customer regulatory focus and keeping up with that. So it's being able to join those dots and pull everything together. And as we've already spoken about it, and translating that for the business and simplifying it for them.
Yeah, we're in an era of unprecedented change. And in order to change anything, you really need to understand your starting point and what your organisation looks like. And that's where the BA comes in, I feel, at the moment.
And that brings me on nicely to my next question. So we've kind of discussed a little bit about the what, But if we're thinking about the how and the why, the core skills of a BA, thinking about 2025 and I guess beyond, what is really key to that role? What are we looking for there?
I think critical analysis, like having that lens where you can really appreciate all that's going on, like all these new technologies, and maintaining that innovative and great mindset, but actually reeling it back in, really thinking about, okay, let's think about what you're actually wanting to solve, because there's a lot of excitement around like, oh, we want to bring in these technologies, and people can get really quick at wanting to adopt things. But I think it's really important that, that business analyst has that critical mindset of just like, okay, what is you actually want to do? Is it the tool that you need or the technology to do that solution, or is there something else we need to address first?
So it's a bit of a sense check, I guess, because you often find, especially with the advancements of technology, execs, whoever, want to kind of run off and do the next big and exciting thing. So I guess, are you saying the role of the BA is to keep people a little bit grounded, keep them in the here and now, but also with one eye on the future as well?
100%, yeah. You need to, like we've said, like they're there to bring it all in, bring that strategic alignment, and making sure everyone's on the same page, and actually taking a moment to think about all these other elements you need to think about, like that, as I was saying, that painting that bigger picture. You need to make sure that everything's kind of being assessed and analysed, which the business analyst can do.
The trouble is, execs and business stakeholders are very tech savvy these days. So they're often coming to you with a solution, and actually it's trying to work out what you're actually trying to achieve. And as you say, that there's exciting technology advancements out there that everyone wants to grab hold of and implement. And probably go up to the C-suite and say, look what we've done. But actually, where's the real benefit in that? Where's the value? And I think great business analysts are devil's advocates and actually can say, understanding the cost base, and I'm sure we'll get onto that later in advancements of tech and bring that in, but would a more traditional solution, just a bog standard manual solution, actually answer the needs of what the business are asking, instead of just running away with the latest shiny new toy?
If we think about the traditional role of a BA, I guess it was kind of that requirements gathering, and there was a very clear definition of where they started and where they ended in terms of what they were responsible for. So we're saying the role of the BA has evolved now, right? We're saying that they are a lot more involved in that strategic element.
Hopefully. And I think that's where sometimes with agile methodology, a BA could be not stuck, but sat within a software engineering team to deliver. And actually, if you let them get out to the business, let them get out to the stakeholders early, and they're ahead of the curve and ahead of the team, and they're getting involved in shaping, A, they've got a lot more job satisfaction, but B, then they can bring that back into the team and really ensure that the teams are delivering what we need them to deliver, as opposed to, I suppose they're getting that bridge, as we've talked about earlier.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more engagements which involve more of a product management lens from the BA perspective. So looking at strategic roadmaps, the business case, return of investments, and completing the structured analysis, which enables you to deliver those. So I've worked more closely, definitely, with product managers to define what value they would see in an incremental change in a software development cycle, and work more closely with executives to understand where they're going over a longer period of time. Yeah. So much more strategic planning and much more focus on value and outcome. Like, why are we doing those changes?
Yeah. So what does that mean for the toolkit then? So BAs always have a toolkit and they have kind of their sort of go-tos, but if the role's changing, how is the toolkit evolving as well?
Controversial probably, but I don't think a lot of it will change. Yeah. I think there's a structured analysis tool set from a process point of view as a business analyst that you need to follow. You need to go into an organisation and you need to understand it completely, and you need to complete interviews, you need to complete workshops, you need to understand fundamentally the as-is and document it before you do anything else. And regardless of the technological advances, that isn't going to change. Yep. I think the requirements need to be generated in minutiae detail still, in order for development teams to deliver and test. That remains the same. I think there's quite a lot of advantage in how we do that. Yep. There are, of course, so much you can do with AI yourself within the product tool set in generating PowerPoints, making your life easier as a BA and delivering quicker.
Yep.
But fundamentally, the process that you go through in terms of analysing a business and looking at the business case for change, the return on investment, and articulating through KPIs and OKRs how it would manifest itself is still remains
So the
same.
core fundamentals are the same, but the way you're doing it,
Yeah.
the technology available to you is slightly different.
Yeah, so I mean, I think where the how, you're absolutely right. So when you're having those very technical conversations or you're facilitating them, I remember back in the day, having scribbling notes, trying to listen. Oh God, I've missed that point. But you've got really obvious Microsoft Copilot transcribing, and then you it's probably getting to grips with things like prompt engineering to really refine that and hone that skill set, so then you can summarize and get the key points out. But I just don't think anything can replace that BA mindset, dealing with ambiguity and really breaking it down to understand what the business are trying to achieve.
And can you just go into a bit more detail about what prompt engineering is for those that may not know? Prompt
engineering is the ability to drill down on a data set. So, for example, you've summarised, you've got the text from a meeting, but you've got specific things that you want to find out from that discussion. So you can use prompt engineering to drill down into that information. So I don't know, what was it that we were discussing about? What was the discussion around pricing? But again, there's a whole skill set to learn. It's a bit like learning SQL when you interrogate databases. So it's becoming... but it's using natural language to drill down on basically a set of information, and then you can hone that skill and drill down to what you need.
The core functions are still there. We're still using the exact same frameworks, as it were, but we're at an age, as you said, where the technology is there that can really help us enhance. So, for example, you've got capabilities like text summarization. So one of the core functions of a business analyst is to understand all these regulations, all these policies and things. Well, we've got things that can summarize the context so that you can really get that understanding. We've got better data analytics. So, you're no longer scrolling row by row by row. You can get that data and you can start, manipulating it and helping organizations to understand it. So I think it's more about, whilst the tools are getting better, the BA, as you said, so like there's prompt engineering that you need to get your head around, but just working out how these tools can help you to do your job better.
You can definitely do your job quicker now.
Yeah.
So it's all about speed then?
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, most clients that we work with would rather a shorter engagement than a longer engagement. When you, I think productivity is key. Collaboration as well. There's so much tools that allow us to collaborate better with not just our stakeholders, with the people in the business that we're engaging with, like Confluence, and ability to share quite openly what we're doing as a project team through things like Confluence and Jira, which do enable a more productive project or program.
I know you've kind of all said similar things in terms of actually the toolkit hasn't changed that much. But if I were to sort of pin you on it and say, what is the big change that you have seen or the big difference maker, what would each of you say?
I think the Jira Atlassian tool set is fantastic. So analytics in there. I mean, I manage tech ops and delivery, and I think it's the ability to join that data up. So you've got incidents, you've got releases, and actually what was the business outcomes, and you can start joining that together, because we talk about value. It's actually very difficult to track benefits and what was the true benefit, because everyone will claim it. So I think there's some fantastic use cases within that tool set that really get to grips with. I know myself, I need to spend some time on that. I think that's fantastic, because it works across the whole team. The business can get involved with that, and then you've got that fantastic, valuable information capture as well, all in one place. So
we're able to use data much better as well to prove a business case and to generate KPIs. It's just much more readily available through all the tooling that we have.
Yeah, I guess with everything now also being virtual, I think the collaboration aspect of it. So you're getting more like virtual whiteboards. You've got things like Miro. We've got built-in things on either Teams, Zoom. It's just making that whole collaboration and capturing those ideas so much easier for everybody's voice to be kind of heard, because everyone can access it.
And your point on virtual collaboration, I think that's a really interesting one as well, right? Because we went from COVID, where everything was online, and we're kind of seeing that shift back in the office again, or hybrid working. So how do you combine in-person and virtual, and how do you make that work?
For me, I think if anyone, so if you're in a meeting and anyone is remote, then that's a remote meeting.
Yeah.
That's my principle. But again, you just use all that tool set. I think again, this is where the BA skill facilitation comes in, pulling everyone in, making sure everyone's voices is heard, because, I mean, I'm sure you've probably got more information on this than myself, Alice, but in terms of AI, it's ensuring you've got that diversification and all the voices are being held, and it's managing bias, especially with AI tooling coming in as well. So it's being really conscious and aware of those things when you're having those meetings and facilitating discussions.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And yeah, I think even before you even take into regards the AI tooling, it's just making sure that the software you're using or the way that you are facilitating these meetings, like if you're sharing content, if you're all in a room and there's two people not on it, making sure you have that room set up that everyone can see what it is you're looking at. Or if you are working online, making sure, everybody's got the pen and paper, as it were, but the mouse and pad to really add to it.
That's really interesting. And I think one of the things that I kind of want to run back to a little bit, you've all discussed the role of the BA is to be a lot more strategic now. So I guess I'd like to dive into that a bit more. Think about how is the BA helping transformation through the full life cycle. What are we looking at there? What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? And how has that role of the BA really changed to become more of a strategic advisory role, I guess?
So I think it is understanding your regulatory framework, and my background's financial services, and it's keeping up with that. So you've got regulation, you've got security. I mean, obviously in the recent weeks we've heard there's been big impacts on that on very well-known brands in the press. I think most organisations now, we're talking about the complex tech stack. There's a disparate number of applications, platforms, and it's being able to step back from that, join them all together, understand all your integration points, and then where's the weaknesses in those points, and how can you strengthen them. So I think, again, we've talked about stepping back and seeing the holistic picture, but yeah, it's really having that bird's eye view and then bringing it right down to the detail.
Yeah, the business analysis training you would receive if you were just starting out would always ask you to focus on people, process, tech.
Yeah.
And from a strategy point of view, you can't ignore those three pillars. I think you need a business analysis view to look at the overarching business architecture and cover those three things when considering any transformation.
That's really interesting, though. So as you say, the traditional business analyst training, but as we're discussing around this table right now, the role of the business analyst has changed massively compared to what it used to be, and there's a lot more in scope now. So I don't want to say is that training fit for purpose, but are you having to do a lot more, I guess, side of desk to get yourself to that point where you feel comfortable in the other areas which you wouldn't traditionally be in?
Going back to the point about the pace of change, you just need to be on top on the pace of change from a regulatory perspective, from a product offering perspective, particularly in financial services, what's happening in cybersecurity space, what is happening in terms of regulations, and be very, very aware. And I think that's one of the key changes.
I think the training is still relevant. I definitely send my BAs on the current courses. I think it's good to have that groundwork. And we talked earlier about solidifying that skills and techniques and those structures. You can, I always say to my BAs, if they're stuck, process map it. And just having those basic skills and working them through, that always draws out requirements, that deep thinking, and you're always going to need someone to do that. But I suppose it's just being aware of all the different tool sets that you can actually take the mental load off of you that we've touched on already in this discussion. So yeah, I think the training is relevant, but then you'll learn a lot on the job, and it's keeping up with your industry developments, as Claire's mentioned.
To your up and coming next generation of BAs, what would be that one thing, I guess, that you would say to them? Hey, I know you're doing this, but also get this locked down as well, because this is going to be really useful for you.
Data.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think I came from a developer background, and the first thing whenever I used to contract years ago, and the thing I always do is go to the data structure, because if you understand the data that the business needs, how it flows, where it's transferred to and from, where it's sitting, then you really understand your core business and also the quality of the data. Because actually, say, for example, a BA is running a proof of concept on, for example, AI, then it's really understanding what that data set is limitations are, and therefore is it real? Does it reflect real life? And really just that's where the BA can come in, because they've got that critical mindset to sort of bring it back to reality, really.
Right, thank you, everyone. I think we're going to leave it there for now. That's into part 1. Join us for part 2, where we'll be discussing more around BA strategy, the role of AI, and really what's important for the BA in an ever-changing landscape.
Subscribe now to never miss an episode of The Big Questions in Tech.